Well, hello everyone, and welcome. My name is Gregory Robb. I am the COO of Sierra Division. Welcome to another Sierra Division AMA. This should be a fun one. Today we're exploring a new portion of game development, at least for me, and that is going to be game design and level design. And who better to talk to than a Mr. Jack Burrows? I'm going to allow Jack to introduce himself here in just a brief moment. But first, if I may introduce my good friend, colleague, CEO, founder of Sierra Division, Mr. Jacob Norris. Jacob, how are you, my friend?
Oh, doing pretty good. Doing pretty good.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you. So, as mentioned previously, joined by Mr. Jack Burrows. Jack has had the opportunity to work with us a little bit as far as collaboration recently on some things that we've been working on. But I'll allow Jack to go ahead and introduce himself, talk a little bit about his credentials and his experience, if you don't mind, Jack.
No, not at all. Hey, folks. It's a pleasure to be here. I love the Sierra Division team, man. I've had a really good time getting to know these guys, getting to work alongside them. They've been a blast. Yeah, I mean, I started really way back playing games when I was 6 years old on the PS1, Crash Bandicoot 3, Spyro, all into the PS2 with Ratchet and Clank, Jack and Daxter. Just so many of those games that captured a sense of wonder in me and really planted a seed. And I just sunk my teeth in and never let go. I just chased the dream all the way to here and just figured at that age, like somebody's got to be making these things that I love so much. So I went to the Savannah College of Art and Design, SCAD in Georgia, pursued a degree in interactive design and game development, if you can believe, the pretty penny that sucker cost. But then finally made my way into QA testing with Activision on World War II, Black Ops 4, somehow swindled those guys into letting me into an internship long after I'd graduated college. Took people to lunch as designers and things, and just I wanted to be where the action was, where the creating was happening. And so I was a level designer on Call of Duty, Black Ops, Cold War, and then on Black Ops 6 and Black Ops 7, Warzone. I did a lot of stuff for Verdansk, as well as spent some time at 2K working on a cool new game they were making, and then moved to NetEase, working on Marvel Rivals as a level designer. So it's been an awesome scattered career of game design, level design stuff all across the way. A lot of indie games back in college too, garage band kind of stuff. So yeah, man, I love games. I love making them. And it's, what more fun than to talk about them with people and just see how we can always make things better, more interesting.
Yeah, so Jack's even been working with us internally on a project at the moment. And it's just always so awesome to see, like, whenever we talk about, game mechanics or level design or something like that, you can just name off the top of your head, I don't know how many games, just like ones I've never heard of, like things like, totally mom and pop shop games all the way up to the AAA stuff. And your just knowledge and background of all that's incredible. So it's impressive, like this library that you can just sort through and then be like, well, actually, if we take this mechanic from here, and there's a really good example in this game, and like the way your mind works, it's impressive.
Thank you. No, it's fun, man. I think about that a lot. Like I'll get, sad that I don't necessarily know how to change the oil or something in a, 2006 Prius. I'm like, how the hell does anybody know how to do this? And I'm like, well, at least I can recite from memory, the cutscenes from Ratchet and Clank 1 or something. I know all the names of the songs to Metroid Prime or something weird. So, all that now. I was trying to tell my parents I was studying really all those years. They didn't buy it, but I was. So I'm glad it's useful now somehow to somebody.
Yeah, it's great that excitement that still like stays with you, because depending on the person, sometimes the longer they're in the industry, like even it happened to myself that often when you're working on games, you don't get to play them as much, and so like the fact that you still get involved with everything that's out there and all the new stuff, that probably helps a ton. Like just keep your mind fresh, and then like the fact that you're really amped about everything, and it's not just like you're doing it for work, but you actually love what you do. It's really nice to see.
Absolutely, man. No, I mean, it's like when I was young, I just figured if you have to get up and do something every day, why not do something that you just love all around? I mean, I have a hard time even having sympathy for friends or family, my brothers, where they're like, I don't know what I want to do. I was like, do you love anything in your life? Do anything adjacent to that, right? Like anything related. I was going to sweep the floors in a game studio if I had to, just to be close to, where the fun was. So yeah, man, I love it. It's even like I literally was deciding between new games to play recently, and Arc Raiders was so hot, and it's a multiplayer game. It's like that can die someday. Like I want to go be in the action. I want to taste that now while it's hot before it goes away eventually, and you missed it, right? I don't want to miss stuff like that. So it's super important to be on top of things, I think.
Something I'm kind of curious about, because from my background, being on more on the art side, of course, whenever I'm playing like a new game, it's so tough for me to focus sometimes because I'll just instantly like look down at this prop and like I'll try to understand how they built out this texture set, or like, are they using trims here? Is it custom baked? I don't know, from the level design side, do you get that feeling sometimes where you're kind of like trying to understand how they came up with a certain mechanic, or like you think instantly like, oh, they should have put like a wall here because I need some cover on this side? Or are you able to like get rid of that kind of workers side of the brain and just play the game a bit?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I'm trying even as you were describing it, I was trying to like remember just for games I'd recently played. There's a new horror game called Routine that just came out, and it had been teased for like 13, 12 years or something. And I loved that game. And it was so cool how like zero hand holding it did. And I'm always like, they'll always make a very obvious, well lit path for like the main way forward. I turn around instantly. Like same thing with like the new Space Marine 2. Like wherever the camera's facing, I turn around. Like or like Wukong. Wukong was a really interesting one because I think that was a team that had come from mobile, and it's like it's sort of an open world, and they had some really messy like boundaries for like the main path and stuff where you would randomly die or like go off the beaten path, or you'd get stuck on something you shouldn't. And so some games are doing it kind of like rough around the edges because the environment is so beautiful, it's so enticing. It's like, I want to go run out there, right? And these other games spoil us rotten because we think that we can go run out there. And so unless you have like visually and systemically well-designed boundaries for a level, the players will assume they can do whatever, right? They can just go run out there, and you can't. And so it's fun for me to think like, oh, how would I have positioned the geometry in this space to like, one, force the player there, or two, do I put a waterfall behind them, right? There's always treasure behind the waterfall. So whenever there's that's a big one. If there's not something behind a waterfall, I'm pissed. I'm like, we wasted my time. Like, this is dumb. Why would you put that? Yeah,
Alt F4 uninstall.
Oh yeah. Negative reviews immediately. Like, oh yeah, review bomb instant. No, stuff like that will catch me. But I mean, if a game gets my sense of wonder and I'm just like lost in it, then that's my bread and butter for sure. But no, it's always both on at the same time. I don't think I can compartmentalize that efficiently.
Yeah, I think we'll be able to talk like a lot more later on, kind of about understanding how you yourself like to guide the player into what they're supposed to be doing versus what they're actually going to be doing. But then kind of just to reiterate your point on like whenever you see a nice well-lit path and you turn around, something that always stuck with me was one of my other environment artist friends from back at Insomniac, like however many years ago now. He was watching the people do the play test of like the level that he had worked on, and it was inside of a vehicle, so you're sitting in the passenger seat and you get to like see everything as you're going through the space, and the guy's talking to you and explaining stuff, and he's expecting everyone to be like looking out and like, wow, that's so impressive. And they were like looking at the radio station, like, can I change the radio station on this thing? And he's like, oh, that fucking
idiot! Don't you know all the work I went into that business and stuff? Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, they were just looking at like the glove box and like stuff on the ground.
He goes and bangs on the door of the engineer. Limit the camera. I don't want that camera below 10 degrees. Yeah, don't even let him look down there. Yeah, that's so funny. It's so real for sure. It's a lot of work, because I mean, unlike a book or a movie, right, where like the camera or the text is focusing in such a way where a game, you try and teach your dad to play a Halo and he's just staring at his feet and the ceiling half the time because he can't figure out how to move and look at the same time. So it's a high art for sure.
That was one of my great pleasures, showing my kids how to play Halo and getting to play back through them. Just a game that you got to experience when you were younger, and then you get to kind of replay it and watch somebody else kind of experience it for the first time and what they're paying attention to. It's hilarious because you're like trying to get them to pay attention to like part of the story or part of the. Meanwhile, they've got a dead body that they're hitting on the ground or something.
Dude, my wife
always got to remember it's a game, right? You
my wife sometimes she'll skip a cutscene on accident, and I get like 20 gray hairs on the spot. I'm like, oh, like you're gonna miss like the cool line from Chief, right? Like if we don't hear what he said. Oh, I feel that.
I need
there was some Instagram reel I watched or something, and the guy was saying, oh, like my girlfriend didn't like The Matrix. But that's because she wasn't sitting there watching it with me, repeating the lines as they were coming on. Then she would have liked it.
If only. Oh, missing out.
Yeah. But I guess starting to kind of get into like the weeds of it a bit and stuff, and kind of breaking down what it means for level design and game design in general. It might be kind of interesting to talk a little bit about kind of the process behind it, and as far as like, pre-production, blockout stages, prototyping and stuff like that, and just understanding from the designer's perspective, once you get, the story and you understand what this, like, say it's a single player game, right? If you want to do multiplayer, tell me what the scenario should be. Kind of setting you up for like, what's the scene here that we're going to be working with. But yeah, so multiplayer, single player game, you got your general story and kind of like beats, like whether it's going to be linear pathing, open world, or if it's going to be multiplayer, just where the spawn points are and stuff like that. And then how you start to prototype from this stage. If you just jump straight into the engine, are you like, writing out docs beforehand and kind of going through what your process is going to be like? I guess if you could pick one of those scenarios and then kind of walk us through like what your thought process is that goes into setting this up.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's kind of an all things level design question, so there's a lot to unpack there. But there's, from top to bottom, one of the most fun things is when you get to be involved or, receiving the foam off the top when it comes to the world setting, the tone, the atmosphere, the premise, because a lot of that is just emotional weight, right? It's emotional vocabulary that the environment is visual, right? Like you could mute the game, you could take the controller away from the player, but the vistas, the first thing they visually see is the level structure. It's the environment. And that has to communicate a sense of scale, a sense of awe, or a sense of dread, a sense of claustrophobia, right? There's a huge difference between playing like Resident Evil Biohazard when you're all inside one sort of broken up barn house versus you're playing Space Marine 2 and you're looking at a hive city in the vista. And so the sense of like, I'm so small compared to this towering monstrosity of architecture is really important to get across versus I'm in a creepy, broken down, rotting house. And so scale and size and environment, they're emotions, right? You're basically painting with geometry to have the color of an emotion. And so sometimes it doesn't matter, right? For Warzone, it didn't really matter as much when the premise why the soldiers are there is super secondary. So it becomes primary, and it's always sort of either the first step or the second step. If you're not involved in all the emotional initial world building, then the first step becomes what can the player physically do with their character, right? I always say game design follows level design always. Oh no, sorry, the other way around. Level design follows game design, my bad. Because if you don't know what the player character can do in the space, you're just designing geometry aimlessly. If the player can run, jump, mantle, slide, crouch, can they attach to cover like Gears of War or Mass Effect? That changes how you make everything because flow is king, right? All level design in some sense or other is about A to B. Even in an open world Warzone, 360 combat scenario, the second you get shot from any one direction, there are a few A to Bs that are produced in that moment. One, A, where I am, and the B is where that bastard is that's shooting me. I got to go hunt him down, right? Or B, where's the cover? Because I can't hit him from here. So your mind transitions to a separate goal. The level designer's job is to present those options in a clear, bite-sized way and make it entertaining, right? It's like every kid grows up some sense or the other running around a playground. We jump off of something, you do a somersault, you sprint off a little ledge, you swing on the monkey bars. Like we're always playing in an action movie as a kid. Hell, even as an adult, right? It's like the jungle gyms of childhood just turned into parkour, right? Like guys that could never leave behind the playground.
Yeah.
They're always looking at objects in the environment. What can I grab onto, slide off of, roll off of, right? They have fall damage, right? How high before my ankle shatters? Like they are playing a game in real life. It's a different type of level design that wasn't designed for them, but they're applying their own game design idea, right? I always want to be moving. How far can I go? How long can I go without stopping? Level design's a lot in the same way. And things like a game mode then shifts the whole dynamic again. right? So you take a single map in Call of Duty, like High Rise from Modern Warfare 2, and you create a game mode like Hardpoint, right? There's a zone. You can't win this match unless you put bodies in this zone in this part of the map. It lasts maybe a minute, maybe 30 seconds, then it moves to another part. Every one of those zones now becomes a defensive and an offensive operation. How do we smoke those guys out that are in there, right? How do we hold this position? Smoke grenades, trophy systems, all kinds of different tools. The mechanics of the game become a lot more interesting than just point and shoot. So all that kind of stuff can feed into any kind of game, even in something like Resident Evil, where you are closed in those tight spaces. You put one enemy that you can't kill, every corridor now becomes a lifeline, right? Where do I turn down? A dead end is lethal because now you're stuck between you and this guy. It's game over. I made a wrong choice. So sometimes it's binary like that, right? And you die, and so it's like, okay, I got to restart this whole sequence, and it's the 5th time I've gone down the wrong dang turn. That might not be great level design per se, right? Because it's like the player is repeating the sequence rather than engaging in the immersion of the moment, the thrill. It becomes a very video gamey experience. Versus something like Warzone, where it's like, there's a sniper up on that tower. We got to try and, like hopscotch our way closer and closer to him. We're going to get up there and flush him out. He might not even be there by the time we get up there, but now we have the power position. So every game design, every thematic has a different sort of wheelhouse of emotions and intentionality that they're trying to present the player with. All of that creates fun, which is, sort of a nimbus viscous concept, but it is, the difference when you're playing a good game versus one where you're realizing it's a game, right? It's almost like learning how to drive stick shift. You're like, the damn clutch shit, right? It's like you keep getting stuck when you want a smooth ride, right? You don't know how to do that yet. So if the game is not smooth, then it takes you out of it, which is no fun. So that's sort of in a broad way how I'd approach that.
It's really interesting to hear you say the very first thought, because of course, you did a great job laying out so many aspects of that. I know my question was intense, and you've somehow compiled it into a really nice summary. But that emotion and kind of conveying to the player what they should be feeling when they enter the map. That's interesting. That's kind of like the first thing that you go for, and it definitely makes sense because I don't want to join a map and feel underwhelmed or kind of feel claustrophobic when it's supposed to be like an open world kind of game or something. So even within the level design, in a broad concept kind of way, you have to think a bit about the art of it and how that incorporates that feeling of the emotion to the player. With that in mind, before we get into each of the other aspects of that, where there's quite a bit more we can kind of talk about that too. That would be interesting to know. Does that kind of give you an opportunity to already start talking with artists on your team about setting up even just the initial level design, or do you do mostly kind of like a block out yourself or look for references to try to understand the type of map you're making and kind of base it off of that? I guess it'd be interesting to know how collaborative those first moments are versus how much is still kind of in your wheelhouse before you move into other parts of the team.
Yeah, it's a great question. It really depends on the scope of the project, the studio you're working with, and just the task itself. So like Call of Duty was a really well-oiled machine. And before I even ever touched the engine or geometry, it was several weeks of basically two-dimensional drafting, presentations, PowerPoints, and feedback. So I would make in Adobe Illustrator a top-down floor plan with different height layers, color coordination, calling out main paths and stuff like that. It was a detailed diagram. We call it a one sheet. So on one paper, you have to articulate visually in 2D how your 3D environment is going to look, feel, play, and all these things. So we would have concept art we'd either have to find as references to say this whole area is an industrial warehouse. This whole area is like a backyard school area. Here's a broken down church. Here's how I think it should look. And then you would sell that to producers, designers, and concept artists because they would help basically pass along your vision, your idea of what the space should be to the environment artist or to the sort of art team. And they would almost be anticipating what you're going to hand them. So once everybody signs off and approves and checks on that, you really don't have a lot of leeway to go rogue off of what you've already set, which is a highly critiqued work process because the second you go into 3D, everything goes to hell. Scale is way off from what you thought the 2D was going to be. Pacing feels different. The size and scale of everything feels different. So it's still organic, but with tighter constraints on something like Call of Duty, right? Where it's like, this is a 6v6 multiplayer map, or this is a tier 1 POI in Warzone. So it's supposed to be huge. So the
Can you
basic
explain
limits.
POI, perhaps?
Yep. Sorry, point of interest. So if you think about something, it's like Verdansk, a stadium is a tier 1, right? Or like an airport. That's huge, big, like it sort of defines the quadrant of the whole map. So that whole corner is defined by that main, or like a dam, right? Some massive structure versus a gas station or a little cluster of homes, like a suburban cul-de-sac or something. Those would be like tier 2. You find an outhouse in the woods, that's like a tier 3, right? It's like it's got some supplies and maybe a chest. So there's scales of sort of scope of those different areas. All of that changes in how you interact with that team, but it is primarily with the team. So even on Marvel Rivals, I can tell you a lot of that was like we would block out the whole map in terms of game design, level design. Like, here's how we think the moment-to-moment gameplay should feel. All the geometry is set. The art team just comes right on top of that. I mean, we had IP restrictions, right? Because it's Marvel. They would give us certain areas that we have to stick to. But process-wise, they would just sort of follow behind us. They would art up whatever geometry we put down. So they weren't as involved versus COD, where Call of Duty, some concept artists might be like, that's not believable. Like the geometry, the architecture you're talking about, right? It might be like 1970s Russia, wilderness, abandoned, pool house or functioning pool house or something, right? Like a vacation location. That geometry, that architecture is heavily influenced by actual believable architecture. So I have no actual training in architecture, but a couple hours on Google, and you get enough of an idea of the geometry that now you have to translate that into gameplay. But the art team is definitely, they can be super intimately involved, or they can just follow behind you. I've had it several different kinds of ways. So either way, it's crucial, right? Because they have to make sense of whatever hoo-ha nonsense that I've strung together with bubble gum and duct tape in terms of geometry. But they're crucial, I mean, to sell that emotion in the end.
It's interesting too, because then I know some of the places that you've worked at, like you said, if COD had like a well-oiled machine to their kind of pipeline and workflow, having so many restrictions in place because there's expectations on, the gameplay or what people expect from, the Call of Duty franchise versus maybe other games where you have much more of your own freedom and kind of input, and there's not necessarily like a proper laid out path to go from prototyping to actual in-game 3D. Do you feel that in some cases the restrictions like are more helpful, or do you sometimes like still feel the restrictions are too much and you push for, hey, can we actually like change this a little bit more, or do you prefer this kind of like anything goes, let's figure out what's happening with this game, what does it mean to the player to do this? Like, I guess yeah, that'd be interesting to hear more about.
Yeah, it's tricky because I think everyone has their preference, but most people have been trained in different ways. So one of the guys I worked with on Marvel Rivals was a veteran Call of Duty campaign designer, and he got a level designer specifically, and he was super like, let me throw paint on the wall. You tell me high level what you want, and I'm going to start throwing things down and just painting, sculpting with the geometry. I was sort of classically trained in a AAA setting at Treyarch, where it was very regimented, very structured, very organized. And so I have found personally, when I just sort of start throwing geometry down without constraint, with like barely a whisper of an idea, I have a harder time establishing my own boundaries for the player, because my mind is kind of like a jack in the box that just keeps opening. It's like, oh, but this idea, but that, this is so much cooler. So I'm almost like fighting with myself in this sort of swishing tide of ideas and concepts. Whereas if I get handed very specific requirements from an art team or a designer, they're like, here's the feel of gameplay and the actual environment from this point in time in history, or this, geographical point in the world, then I can start painting a lot better and start to think, well, like it's in a shopping mall, right? So that's very dense, moment to moment, cover to cover, in through a store, out the emergency exit that connects to another store, or back like service maintenance hallways and stuff, versus like a village on a mountainside, right? Those are big, sweeping, different angles. I'm going to get up on rooftops and have a view of the whole place. Like, in terms of like how I would approach making those things, either way, with the constraint, you can do it. I feel personally, I can knock it out pretty quickly. You hand me just that, sort of broader concept. I personally have a harder time throwing paint at the wall and pushing and pulling. Metrics as well is a huge thing to mention, because that in itself is a fundamental constraint to what you do. So a lot of the times, if I'm making my own project or a side project, or I'm the only level designer, I have to decide how tall should all the interiors feel, right? What is what's the nuance? Are there some that are half, double half interiors? Is every building just a 2-story interior or whatever, right? Like, how high can the player jump? All those things determine the geometry. Call of Duty was extremely specific with that, right? Like, every doorway is 56 wide, 92 units tall. And, it's either that or it's doubled. There's no spectrum for that, which makes it really convenient, where, if I place a doorway, I have to have at least 32 units between the next wall, so that if the player gets stuck between the door opening and the wall, they're good because the player capsule's that size. So there's so many different factors that can go into, like, what you start to throw down in a 3D environment is determined by, a lot of the times, either preconceived, pre-established, metrics and notions and practices, or, you're just free will and Bob Dylan. But some designers do better than others than that. But I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting, because even from like the art side of things, there's the people that can just look at a blank piece of paper and just create masterpieces from it, like out of the top of their head with no constraints as to what they're about to create, right? And then there's like people like myself that I can't even do anything until I get at least the Blender default cube in front of me, and then I can start modeling after that. Yeah, like the other kind of curious thing, because continuing to come back to, the fact that restraints can either be like helpful or hurtful, and then also like conveying emotion to the player based off of kind of what your reference is, and is it a mountaintop or is it like inside of a corridor or something. I've actually found that a lot of designers have gone from level design into environment art, because they have had to do so much research with references and like just discovering the art side of things and how to convey emotions to people. And then the same thing, environment artists have gone from environment art over to level design, and felt like, oh, I really can like do a great job guiding the player. And in some cases, they've had to design full levels themselves too.
Yeah.
I guess like kind of speaking to that, because our community does come from like a big art background. That's why I found it kind of curious or kind of cool that we'd get this opportunity to be able to talk to you about it, that so much of what everyone's doing throughout our community has a ton of design involved in it without maybe them realizing, or they do realize, and it could be a great way for them to start understanding more how it's going to affect gameplay, kind of how to guide the player and things like that. It might be interesting to talk a bit about somebody coming from the environment side, like what would be some great ways for people to kind of get started into level design, game design, if they've only ever done art in the past and they're interested to learn more about like taking even UEFN, right? Mm-hmm. Something that's already existing, it has constraints, and it's got like the gameplay ready to build it out from there. And not that you have to speak UEFN specifics, but just getting started in like this kind of thought process for somebody to transfer over into thinking like a game designer. What's a good way for them to start leaning into this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even since college, we were always taught that every game studio wants to hire someone that can jump in seamlessly. And I think for any department, knowing that you're making a video game at a fundamental, intimate level influences everything you do, or it should, personally, I think. And so I, even just as a level designer, if I'm interviewing people and I get roped into an interview, if I had 2 environment artists and one of them had just made nothing but beautiful corners, he's a skilled artist, obviously knows how to make textures and lighting and things look nice. But if the other guy had the same quality of work, but it was demonstrated in a level that I can at a glance discern gameplay from, I want that guy. because he knows how to apply the art. He's like you said, he's already thinking about ways to emphasize how to lead the player. Because as a level designer, I might use just like a block, literally like polygonal, very primitive shapes and images and textures to be like, hey, here's the yellow paint, right, that I'm slapping on here to show the player's main path. If an environment artist demonstrates at a portfolio level that they know how to do that much more subtly or with different colors or like using, perspective and stuff like that, that's already more compelling to me because they know what we're doing. They know what we're trying to make. They're demonstrating all that art knowledge is funneled, is focused, is directed towards a goal, which is create emotion for a player in a video game. Not just does it look pretty, does it look believable, right? There's a massive jump in thinking. So I think a lot of that learning the level design, learning that kind of understanding of a game starts with questions. Whenever you're playing anything, ask the question, why is this rock here? Literally as simple as a rock. Think about the beaches on the first or the second level of Halo, right? When that famous introduction when you're fighting the Covenant on the beaches, getting out of the Pelican and the first few pieces of cover, right? There, you're throttling how many enemies do you put in front of the player. It's not just an open beach, right? You don't just dump the player in front of an army of guys. There's a tree, there's stones, there's a little hillside. There's things for the player to navigate around in a really fun way. They're there for a reason, right? There's even been controversy recently with the announcement of the Halo that they're remaking in Unreal, because they made it so that the Warthog can go where the hunters are, which are the really big, hulking, intimidating enemies. Yeah. You're not supposed to have the Warthog there. That wasn't the original design, because they want you to feel powerless in front of such an intimidating enemy. And when the player overcomes that, they feel awesome. They've changed it. So now you can have the Warthog there, and it mitigates the threat of those enemies. One question would have changed the whole perspective of that, right? Like, why can't I take the Warthog there? You go into the next arena, because there's an intimidating enemy here that's supposed to terrify me, supposed to make me feel freaked out, right? All those things will teach you very quickly the intentions, because it's a human being painting the environment, not just the textures and things, but painting the pacing, right? There is an artist. They're designing with intentionality the moment-to-moment experience. I think they said like every 30 seconds they want action. Or if not, then it's 30 seconds downtime, 30 seconds action, 30 seconds downtime, right? There's a flow. And it's what keeps the players pulling. You're pulling them through the story just like a good narrative would, just like good writing. What's going to happen? How the hell are these characters going to get out of this situation, right? Tune in next week. Well, in a game, you don't have to, right? You just keep playing. You keep going. If the level design is done well, it flows beautifully into the next challenge, into the next sequence. So it's just a matter of wondering while you're playing. Remember that, it's funny because this is where you sort of have to break your sense of immersion. You have to break your sense of wonder. Which is good if that's a hard time, because that means the game's really good, right? They've done a good job of so baptizing you into their world. You don't even want to break the immersion. You're like, I want to enjoy it. Good. How did they create that feeling in you so that you can create that in a customer? That's exactly what's worth studying. Where those questions are trying to get you is understanding how did they create that sense of wonder in the first place.
It sounds so simple, but then it really is like just asking the question, like you said, because damn, looking back on it, I questioned it at all with the hunters. I was just like, yeah, I'm a badass. I killed it. Especially you feel so good that you figure out, oh, there's a weak point on his back. And like the first time you dodge him, but then that's another comment, because after the first time you dodge them, they become like the easiest enemy to kill ever.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's just kind of gimmicky.
Run around behind them and,
That's why there's two of them.
The first time you ever do it, you're like, that was the craziest thing ever.
You're sweating like a pig after it.
Yeah. Dumping full clips of the assault rifle.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
But no, that's a great like commentary, just kind of why did they do this? Why did they do this? And pretty much just, if you question everything, you'll hit certain things that it's like, oh, well, that's just because, it makes sense. But in other cases, it will, I'm sure, lead you down a path to understand like the purpose of the gameplay, the purpose of the emotion they're conveying to the player. Like you said, yeah, am I supposed to be super freaking scared in this spot, or should I feel like super powerful in this spot?
That's right. Yeah, a lot of pain too comes from why didn't they do this, right? So you ask those questions long enough, and then you start to think, what the hell were they thinking? Like, or even worse, oh man, if they had done this. That's what really pushed me as a designer, was a sense of missing out. And then you find out about scope creep and, time constraints and crunch. And they're like, dude, you have no idea how much we cut that we would have wanted to do. I don't know how many times I've met a game designer. I'm like, dude, why didn't you guys do this? Like, it would have been awesome. And they're like, dog, there's like a timeline, right? There's like a time, schedule, and budget. I watched interviews of the guys making the first Outer Worlds, and they said that constantly. They're like, do you plan to do, deep, intimate romances? And they're like, time and budget. And it's right. He's not wrong, right? It's not like a cheap answer. It's just true. Like, there's a great Todd Howard quote. It's one of my favorite. And he said, we can make anything, we just can't make everything. And it's perfectly true, right? Any developer knows that feeling. So anybody making anything knows that feeling, right? Every author, it's like, yeah, what do you want to make, a 5,000 page tome? Sure, but who the hell's going to read it, right? It's like you have to concentrate what you want to make. But it's cool, because then when you get the chance to get in there, it's like, okay, now I get to design what I think is cool, right? Finally, I'm here. I get to try and dictate what I think would be really fun for the player that I didn't see them do. Now's my chance to try it. And the fun part is when you try it and you realize this sucks, no wonder they didn't do it. So you're answering your own questions from however long back you can go in your memory. So this is just a fun business, man. It's a fun art form to mess with and ask these sort of, probing questions about.
Have you ever tried to make your own like board game? Does it transfer over to that very well, or?
Oh yeah, no, dude, in college I had a great game design teacher, Jack Mamias. He was actually one of the original designers of the first Crysis and Far Cry. So he's a legend in the design community. But he would basically hand us a box of like game pieces, random like toys you'd find in like a kindergarten, and a couple sheets of grid paper, and he'd be like, "Here, make a board game. You have a week and a half to make a board game." What the hell, dude? Are you serious? Like, it's so incredible at the end of that assignment how many different wild ideas people. I mean, hell, we fought over dice, right? It's like, oh well, I gotta have the dice. Give me those. Oh, I want these colored chips or something, because you're working out of literally a constrained set of resources, and you have to make gameplay. And the beauty is that you can make gameplay damn near out of anything. There's a great game design concept called territorial acquisition, which sounds very academic. But you know how satisfying it is when you mow a lawn and you simply see the influence you've had on the section that you mowed versus the unmowed section yet? It's ridiculously satisfying, right? If you just go straight down the middle of the lawn, you're like, man, look how nice that section looks. Look at all this. Look at my influence I've exerted over the rest of this lawn, right? And then you clean your hands of it. Look at that. It's a clean, sharp-looking thing. That principle alone is used, I mean, just in those like satisfaction videos you could find on YouTube, right? Talk about brain rot. You could just watch the dopamine of like, oh, it's so satisfying watching people mow their lawn. That's a game mechanic. Think about like Stellaris or any grand strategy game. All you're doing is watching the color of your country bleed out into the color of other countries and take over it. All you've done is spread literally like a texture over other territories. But it's the themes, it's the thematics, it's the systems that are affording that satisfaction in the end. So absolutely, man. Board games are incredible. I just learned a new game called Quacks. If it sounds ridiculous, but it's about like brewing potions and stuff like that. You want a new crack addiction, man, go to the nearest board game shop, because that thing has got me and my family hooked 6 ways to Sunday. Board games are amazing. The fun part is trying to think, how do you extrapolate what a board game can do in terms of like randomness and competitive play into a video game? Because some of their systems are just brilliant. Even Catan, right? Like something as classic as Catan, or hell, Monopoly, right? Like acquiring currency and buying out other players. Like, what would that look like in Call of Duty? That's the real fun. How do you start mix and matching those different genres? Cross, I don't know if you call it a platform, but whatever. Like, the game design is a wide and beautiful beast. There's so many different angles to approach it. So, yeah, I definitely get bored and start whipping up a board game.
We got a Quacks fan in the chat, and he's like, I love Quacks.
Oh, yeah. Somebody was going to know it.
Yeah. And feel free, everybody, like as we're kind of chatting, if questions come up along the way, we can either answer them as we're talking or come back to them at the end. But yeah, there's actually, funny enough, I think an indie game about mowing lawns, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure that exists.
There's power washing houses.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The power washing is a perfect example. There's the reason there's 15 different farming simulators, right? Who doesn't love to watch you mow up all the corn you've planted over the seasons and stuff? It's the same thing. It's something so fundamental, but you just take that basic concept and you can extrapolate it.
It's I guess kind of like the foundation of game design is like the payoff, right? Like, you can make whatever, the most interesting level design ever. But if there's no like feeling of payoff and accomplishment, then none of it really mattered. So even when it comes to whether it's going to be like, driving the story, is the story the payoff, and you learn what the next step of the story is the, the kill count, the payoff, like how many people did you kill in that round, or the headshot that you got, or even in Halo, when you could get the confetti and the grunts would explode with like the yay.
Yes.
Yeah, that basically, I guess at the end of the day, that's most of what game design boils down to. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm kind of just like having a realization moment that holy crap, it's all about the payoff. Like what makes me so excited to come back and do this over and over again, and how are they getting me to that feeling in the end, basically kind of guiding me along the way until I feel like, damn, I'm good. Just like with the hunter thing, like, man, I'm so good with that pistol. That's great.
Yeah. No, dude, I miss the old kind of games that we grew up, at least I grew up with, like the 2000 era to like 2013, a lot of it was cutscene to cutscene rewards, but because the worlds and the story were so rich, it's fascinating. Even something like BioShock, you could think like they never had a cutscene except the intro. And even then it's an in-engine cutscene. But just watching the world and the characters and the purpose and the mystery unfold, which was often environmentally storytelling anyway, like that was so gripping to see what else does this underwater city look like? How do they grow food? Where the hell's all the power coming from, right? Like, where do they shop? How do you get medical attention? And you see how that world is expressing these things you expect to find wherever human beings are dwelling, let alone finding, you beat this tough little enemy encounter and there's a weapon upgrade station. Look how sick my pistol looks now. I got to find another one of those things, right? So there's all these factors pulling you through the environments, exploring in nooks and crannies, especially if it's a survival game, right? It's like you want to scavenge. You want to find as much ammo, as much powered utility as you can get. But yeah, there's all kinds of different rewards and things. I've been playing this game called Ball Pit, which is a phenomenal game. I've been so hooked and addicted, but it's a very systemic heavy game. It's just systems. It's just how crazy can I get it's basically Brick Breaker and a roguelike. It's awesome, man. And like the art style is cool. The little characters are cool. The rewards are how much more nuanced, how much more unique do the little systems work together, right? Like some balls you can combine that are like poison and an explosive, and it makes a nuclear bomb. Blew my mind the first time I did that. I was like, "Oh, you shitting me? That's so cool!" And then you watch the little characters just like wipe off the board, and you're like, "Oh, it's so satisfying," right? Versus like all these other different strategies. There's no story, not really. There's no cutscenes, but it's so gripping. I can't stop thinking. I literally fall asleep and like feel like I have a disease or something because I just picture these little balls bouncing around, because it's so fun. I'm thinking about it when I'm not even sitting down to play it. Versus like you go back to like Jak and Daxter. If you play Jak 2 without any cutscenes, it would feel so hollow and empty to me. You'd be fun because it's fun to crash around the cars and shoot stuff and things, but without like the really rich writing, the great voice acting, like I don't know if some games fall short, but that's why they're there, right? And even then you have the option to skip them. God knows who would do that. I think very, very sick people skip cutscenes, but otherwise, yeah, there's all kinds of rewards. Game design is a beautiful thing, man.
We actually got one of our first questions here, if you got a sec. So Shady is asking, how would you approach games that have multiple endings? Like, how would you approach the level design when player actions control the sequence? What's the mechanics when coming to controlling the player?
That's a great question. It's interesting because multiple endings are usually rewarded through very different means than a different level. You know what I mean? So like even in Mass Effect, which is famous for having the different endings, right? It's a different color of the explosion, but all the
that goes across the
gameplay.
series, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, spoilers.
Yeah, sorry. Well, they don't know what anything could be exploding. There's plenty of explosions in Mass Effect.
Guess in this new movie called The Matrix? Anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
La 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 la.
I don't know. It's like it's rare. I think even in my experience, I'm literally flipping through my catalog in my head. It's very rare that the level design is part of multiple endings in any different way. What you could do that would be fun is the way that you might defeat a final encounter. So you could have it all in the same final arena, right? Like the same final boss fight, even in BioShock, for example, because there are, I think, at least 3 different endings, even though it's determined normally in Bioshock, it's determined based off of what you do or don't do with the little sisters. That's how you get the good or bad cutscene in the end. You could have made it so that how you kill the final boss in that final arena changes what happens to the city, right? Do you kill him when he's in a certain section and you shoot some, explosive tanks or something and it, blows in all the water? The ocean has reclaimed Rapture now. Or, do you, I don't know, like you suck all the Atom out of him through some crazy machine that he already had in there that you activate. Now all that Atom's there for you to consume. You become the new king of Rapture. Changing the geometry, level design and game design wise of a final encounter, I haven't seen done, but it's not impossible, right? It took me 2 seconds to think of a way you could do that. Normally, they're not rewarded that way. It's normally just a narrative reward, right? It's like the different characters saying different things because of what happened was different. But very scarcely is it like because of an actual geometry environment. I would love to know examples of that otherwise, because even in like Fallout 3 or something, right? It's like you either go into the water purifier or you're a jerk and you force your follower to do it. Or if you have a certain follower, they won't even do it to listen to you. They're like, no, this is your destiny. You go do that. But it's still the same environment. So
yeah, that is exactly what you were talking about. It instantly frustrated me.
Yeah, right? Exactly. You're like, what do you mean? I don't want to go in there. You go in there. The game ends anyway.
Spoilers.
But yeah, that's right. Yeah, another 14-year-old game. No spoilers.
Guy Fawkes, how could you do this to me?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I guess it all comes back to the time and budget again, right? Like, how much time do you have, and what's your budget to be able to continue to make multiple endings?
Yeah, exactly.
I guess. But so within general scope of most games, kind of finding a way to guide the player into a generally similar environment in the end, but then how they leave the environment or how things kind of conclude within that environment is mostly what changes.
Yes, yeah.
From the sound of it, yeah.
Yeah, well, it almost never has to do with level design. Like even in the end of like Deus Ex Human Revolution, right? There's like a character in front of you. And I remember I was just for fun, like I shot him and then the game ended. I was like, God dang, I didn't realize I was going to like pick an ending by doing that, right? Like I thought there's going to be some dialogue I could keep going through. Like, no, you can just like back up and shoot the guy and then the game ends that way. It's like that was one of the endings. It's crazy because the player agency is so maintained when you do something like that, because they're like, did you want to talk to him? Did you just want to cap him and it's over? Like a Singularity was another great example, but it's never about the level design, right? It's almost never that I can think of has to do with like how the player plays the core gameplay in that last stretch. I don't know. That's an interesting whole concept. It'd be really neat to try that.
We have another question as soon as we're ready. I can read that off this time. Right?
Yeah, fire it up.
Let's do it.
Go for it.
Okay, Selena has a question about for beginners in level design. Do you have any design warm-ups to help understand scope or like timed challenges or quick design exercises?
I would imitate whatever your favorite game levels are. I would go back to old school third-person action. It depends on what you're making, for one thing, right? You want to make a 2D platformer, imitate the first or second level of the first Mario game. Just build it. Literally copy it. And you will see just training your brain and your body to go through the motions of assembling those different parts and pieces, you're almost going to answer the design questions as you're putting it together, right? You could go and take any game, really, any first level of any game, like Call of Duty, right? You could take the first action blockbuster level of that. You're going to get an experience of what it feels like. Oh, this is why this distance is here, because that guy's up there, right? There's a window on that building across the street because I remember playing this. There's supposed to be a machine gun turret there, which is supposed to force the player, me, down an alleyway to my right? Like just imitate it, copy it, literally one-to-one in your own project, and you will both be constructing, witnessing, and answering those questions, those game design philosophies, and then change it, right? Think, what if I make them go left? Well, the game didn't make me go left. What's behind there? What was there in the game? Well, it was a warehouse, whereas when I went right, it was a deli, right? So maybe instead of I'm going behind like a sandwich counter or something versus, well, if there's a warehouse, obviously there's no interior there in the game. You design it. You build how the player should pace themselves. You know what this level is supposed to feel like, this mission. How would you pace it, right? What objects would you put in this giant warehouse versus what you saw outside in the street, right? They're doing the same thing. They're still guiding you through this space. You place the bad guys. If I'm getting shot from a second balcony in a warehouse, what do I put in the middle of the room? Do I make it so I can go underneath the catwalk, right? So he can't see me anymore? Do I put a big shipping container in the front? What if I can run through the shipping container? What if there's 2 shipping containers back to back, but the second one is closed, right? So you go through the safe spot, then there's a dead end with a binary choice. Look at me, right? Like it's every second you're trying something out, you're designing. You are. You're presenting the player with choices and then how you lead them, right? Like all those things can come about from literally imitating any game's level and then just try and diverge from what you're copying, and you'll be doing level design. It's very easy.
I guess while asking another question that relates to that and adding my own on top of it, if people were wanting to kind of like, imitate and try to recreate something themselves, from an environment perspective, we have the Unreal Marketplace. It's easy enough to kind of, grab things and prototype them out with mega scans or something like that, even just blocks to generally set up what our environment is going to eventually look like. But for beginners, like looking to do warm-ups, understanding the scope of like timed challenges or quick design exercises, do you have, like warm-ups or good books or anything related to that? And then my question on top of it afterwards is like, where can I find some kind of foundational level design equipment to kind of try out some of these things, I guess?
Yeah, so I would, to do that, in terms of just messing around with level design, the best level design tool I've found that's free and open and available is Supergrid. The plugin Supergrid for the Unreal Engine, which is obviously free as well, right? Get the latest version of Unreal Engine 5 and then download from Fab Supergrid. It's kind of a pain in the ass to like make your own new project because they don't have it where you can just add it to a project, but you could create the Supergrid project and then just make a new level. And in the content browser, there's that folder basically that has all these primitive shapes: ramps, blocks, arches, pillars, cylinders. Just with that tool set, you can make anything. You can make anything you can dream of. Pick some random thing. Actually, that'd be a fun design challenge. Go to Pinterest and look up concept art from literally any genre you could think of. Sci-fi marketplace concept art on Pinterest or something. Pick one you like, and then try and design, okay, if this is a first-person shooter, how do I get through this space, right? I mean, Unreal will give you a very basic like walking capsule that doesn't necessarily have any fancy geometry or jumping or anything. It's very easy to like set some of those basics up. I think Unreal has a lot of templates that you can fire up as well. But even that, right? Like give yourself an hour. Once you get all the technical stuff set up and you're like, okay, now I know how to place geometry. Now I know how to light it, right? Like put point lights everywhere, spotlights or something. Now just go and imitate the concept art. Forget about, designing the textures or anything. If you just want to learn geometry, that's all you need, right? Like in first person, because you're already, the second you hit play, you're presented with a perspective, with a point of view, a POV, and like, how much can I see in this frame? A lot of what we do in level design is create good reads, right? So when you come around a corner, what's the read, right? If I'm playing a shooter, I need to be able to see where the primary pieces of cover are, where the power position is, or if it's a single player game, like an action game or something, like Uncharted, right? I'm being chased. Where do I got to go? There's the part, that's obviously raised up or something. The water level's rising beneath my feet. What would I do? Pretend the floor is lava as you're building out this space and decide, how would I hopscotch the player jumping from here to there? But Unreal and Supergrid will get you light years in terms of publicly available level design tools. You can make almost anything with Supergrid. And then just setting up the gameplay templates shouldn't be hard either. But seriously, like just imitating a concept art, you'll have, I mean, it's infinite. There's so many images online you could just try and copy and turn into gameplay.
Okay, yeah, so I guess just to kind of make sure that definitely answered my question, like where do you get the stuff to start with this? I'll just reiterate the question again. We can kind of make sure we answered the one from our community. So Selena was saying for beginners in level design, do you have any design warm-ups to help understand scope or timed challenges or quick design exercises? I guess, would that relate to your example of saying pick any kind of existing game and recreate it? Is that kind of like a good?
Yeah, that would be my answer, because they've essentially done it, and then so imagine there's like even just a minute stretch. If you were to walk straight for a minute in Unreal Engine, there's a distance, right? So you're measuring your player's movement speed. Level design always has to follow what the player can do. So if you know from here to here, the player, it takes me a minute to walk between those spaces. You go fill that space. How would you make them go to a second story? How would you make them go under an archway? Would you make them go down at all? Right? Like, how would you create different pacing like that? Let's say you're in a marketplace. Let's say it's in a mini mall, right? You're in a mall, you're in a shopping mall. How would you get them up to a second story? Where's the escalator, right? Is there an elevator that goes up and down? How do you lead them there? Do you make it the center of the room? Do you remember that cutscene from Left 4 Dead 2 when they're coming down the elevator and there's a mountain of zombies waiting for them? That's epic. Somebody had to level design that. How would you create a similar feeling, right? What would it feel like to walk into that shopping mall, basically? Those kinds of questions, you're just setting up for your imagination, basically. You're spitballing, you're assigning yourself a task. So dreaming up any kind of scenario. What if I'm on a desert road, right? Like, and there's a sinkhole or something that my car crashed into, and I've realized there's actually a minefield in front of me. Now I'm dipping down all these different, there's a bunker over there that must be a safe haven or something, and there's zombies coming. How do I navigate this minefield, right? Like, you could do all of that with very primitive geometry and just have a blast doing it.
You see, Greg, like I was saying at the beginning of the call, like this guy just comes up with everything on the spot.
And just whip, like a whip about it. Like it just instantly and it's not that we've prepared any of these answers in any capacity. It's just, it well. Yeah. And so it's really, really cool to get to listen to you talk about it.
Yeah.
Because you can see how powerful your passion is about it. And that you understand it so well. It's really, really cool. It's really, really cool. And like, as you're going through it, it's like, I'm instantly thinking of examples, right? You describing trying to get away from an enemy that you can't escape because you can't fight them directly, so you've got to run, like the Ichimura level and the second level of Dead Space. And so it's like where you're just running from that monster, and the whole level to that point's boring, right? You're being an actual engineer trying to find your way. You're like, what's going to happen here? And then all of a sudden, the epic monster arrives, and now you've just got to run for your life.
Oh yeah.
And I remember reading an article about this to where that was actually by mistake, because they originally wanted to have enemies along the way, but it was in the Ichimura. They wanted to focus on engineering. They knew that this enemy would have to be what chased them, and so it ended up working out to where you have no gameplay until that's other than engineering, and you're just exploring to now all of a sudden you're facing the ultimate enemy.
Yes.
In the game, and that was really, really cool, and the emotions that you get from that, because it's long enough. You play in the game, something's eventually going to happen, especially if you played Dead Space.
Yes.
And so it was one of those things where you played it long enough that you get to that point to where it's just like you got to the point to where you were just starting to feel safe, and now you're definitely not.
Yeah,
definitely not.
Yeah, Dead Space is my favorite game of all time. In fact, I'm hiding it with my big fat head. I've got this mural that I made of Isaac Clarke right behind me.
Yeah,
those are my pointillism pieces. You can't really see them too well, but they've it's all just like dotting and markers. But dude, Dead Space is a treasure trove of design, just brilliance. I mean, that whole sequence, especially when you're running from the hunter that you can't kill because it regenerates, but you have cool tools to slow it down, like the stasis thing. So you shoot off all its limbs, stasis it, so it takes a while to start regenerating. But those bastards, they lock the doors, they turn off the oxygen, like they screw you so many ways in those sequences. They're horrifying. But it's really fun though.
Yeah, really, really, really fun. That actually leads really well into a question, if you don't mind me asking.
Sure,
one of the questions from the community. And so V had asked, and this is probably going to be easy for you, at what point in the design process do you consciously start shaping player emotion? Is it something you establish during blockout, or does it emerge and solidify later through iteration?
You polish it in iteration, you establish it immediately. A landmark in the distance is a great first thing to throw down. So when we were making the Araco map in Marvel Rivals, there's that huge spire in the background in the vista. Even just designing what the vista is. Think about Elden Ring, right? Like painting that giant Erd tree in the way distance already sets emotion, right? You've already established a sense of absolute wonder. What the hell is a tree that large doing in this world? What is this all about? Why is it practically like sunlight? And then closer than that, you have Godric's castle, right on the cliff's edge. There's a really beautiful image somewhere, and I should have it saved. I should have had it on my hip, that basically analyzes the first read on the environment when you come out of the tutorial dungeon in Elden Ring. When you walk up to that, that loser Valeris or whatever his name is that's about to talk to you at the very first grace, the vista is so brilliantly designed. So the immediate goal The very, very immediate goal is the first save checkpoint that's right at your feet. Then there's a church, but next to the church is the giant golden knight, right, that's on horseback. Is morbidly intimidating. He will beat your ass if you try and walk up to him. So he presents a choice. Do you want to go try and fight that guy butt naked with whatever you got on hand, right? You just started, and maybe you can do it, right? He's intimidating, or you got to go around him. He forces you to go around him. One of the ways he forces you is to that church. There's a shopkeeper in there and another checkpoint. So it's a micro goal. But in that whole time, you can see Godric's castle in the distance. So that's the medium goal, right? That's the one that comes afterwards. You're like, I want to get up in that castle. I want to go run around that place, see what the heck's going on up there. The farthest goal is the Erd Tree, the ultimate goal. It's always in view, almost anywhere in Elden Ring where you're looking. So that one vista is painting emotion, it's setting objectives, it's guiding the player, and it's painting a sense of emotional wonder, right? You're like, there's so much that's presented with you in one screenshot. It's awesome. That's a fantastic game to study. Even the dungeons will teach you plenty in that game, right? You're underground, the way those corridors work, there's phenomenal game design. They get a little repetitive in terms of the visual environment and especially the music. God, please, they could have, one other soundtrack would have made those dungeons a lot more fun. But it's amazing what they can do with just a preset kit, right? It's just stairs and walls and some elevators and things, and they made 1,000 of them. It's amazing. Yeah, that's what I would do. I think it starts at the very beginning, but it's polished in iteration.
I would actually share my screen real quick if I can here. Somebody in the chat actually posted exactly what you're talking about.
Exactly. They found it.
It's amazing. Yeah, it basically shows the attractor, the micro attractor, and then the short-term goal, and it's amazing. These are like I really am learning a ton today. I thought I knew a bit about level design, but when you say it with the proper vocabulary and explain it so plainly, and I can actually see it laid out like this,
yeah.
I mean, my mind's getting blown right now because I'm like, I want to go make a game. I know how to do it.
Yeah, right? It's so annoying how available it is. It's like you can make anything, dude. The beauty. So you asked earlier, it's are there books? Hell no. There's 1,000 different video games you can go up. That's your homework. There's so many games to study, but you got to go back in time because you have to be able to recognize the games that come out today are servicing a market that is always mutating. They were doing the same then, right? But technical constraints, I mean, what they were doing with megabytes in the year 2000 was shocking. You play Half-Life 1, play it the original Half-Life 1, no remake, no nothing. It will blow your freaking mind. It'll ask a lot of you because some of those puzzles are back-asswards, dude. They're so crazy. But there's some great, it's just genius. It's genius back then. It's genius today. Get over yourself if you don't like the graphics and things. You have to put yourself there. I promise you spend 10, 15 minutes playing any one of those old games, you'll forget all about it. Because the game design, the systems, the gameplay, the level design is so fun, so immersive, so interesting. You will re-immerse yourself just as we did, old timers back then, playing those games for the first time, because that's all we had. It's all we knew, right? A lot of the games these days are servicing totally different objectives. But those games, man, you can learn everything you need to know from literally just playing video games.
Powerful. We got another question from Hebert. When designing a level, how do you balance player freedom with guiding them subtly towards objectives without breaking immersion?
It's a great question. It depends on the purpose of whatever space that they're in. So The Last of Us is what came to mind instantly, where it's a linear game, right? You're almost always going from point A to point B. There are a lot of, I would almost say, micro decisions that you'd make in any one of those linear levels, because oftentimes there's a lot of side rooms, side houses, alleyways. Bill's town is a great example, right? Get to the church, that's where Bill is. There are so many nuggets of storytelling, ammo, upgrade scrap, equipment you can find in all the buildings along the way towards that goal. You could blow all of them, go straight there. But if your game is designed in such a way that their resources are limited, their upgrade resources limited, and they're always looking for a way to prepare themselves for the next zombie encounter, then the players should have by that point been taught to scavenge, right? Look around. Sometimes I think literally they probably have Tess or one of the early characters say, we should look around this area. There should be a lot untouched here. already, all right, I'm going to go, dwaddle into this deli and see if there's a bar back here, right? There's like a lead pipe. This is better than the 2x4 wood plank that I've been using, because they taught me those little markers at the bottom of the screen tell me I can only hit a zombie twice before this thing breaks. This thing has 4 bars, so it's a more valuable resource. I went off the beaten path. I found something powerful. There, the neuro pathway is set. For the rest of the game, if there's ever a semi-open area, you are incentivized to go look, because there's stuff there. The more you reward the player, the more you teach them. It's like breadcrumbing, right? You're literally breadcrumbing an animal to a reward, to a result, to a cause, to an effect. And so it's up to obviously the objective of the map. So like in Call of Duty, all you'd ever get is intel, right? Like, can you find all the intel, which is like a folder on a desk somewhere or like a laptop? It doesn't give you anything. It doesn't reward the player anything. So like very early on, I was like, screw that. I don't care about that. Like, I'm not going to break the blockbuster action feeling that I have by going to look for something I don't care about, because it doesn't give me anything. Why would I go look for it? Unless there was like, a minigun or heavy machine guns or something laying around, sure, then it'd be awesome. But there's not. So why would you do it? Right? You're killing bad guys. Take one of their guns. There's plenty of resources that you don't need. It depends on the game. Depends on the objective of the game design. Otherwise, you don't need it. The player agency is always determined by what the objectives of the experience are.
Yeah, the only reason I collected those laptops is because I was like a completionist at the time with my Xbox Live challenges.
Oh yeah.
And in that one, I still remember there was like a specific plane mission where you had to like, save the hostage and like shoot just past the guy's head and then like run upstairs and someone comes out from another room. And one of the achievements was like, you had to complete this entire hostage situation within 15 seconds and you had to go like every single shot like perfect and do it all, right? And that was my second to last achievement just before collecting these freaking laptops that, like you said, mean nothing other than just picking a laptop up. And I did the plane thing, and then my friends were there, and I was going to go get the last laptop. And just to make it an epic moment, I turned slow-mo cheat mode on. And then threw a grenade, and I ran towards the laptop. But because I turned to slow-mo on, then it didn't give me the achievement of picking the laptop up because I used a cheat code, and I could never complete this completionist thing. And that always stuck with me. And so, sorry, it just sparked like a core memory.
Oh, it's awesome.
Laptops, and it's like, sometimes I still wake up and I think about like that damn laptop. I shouldn't have turned slow-mo on.
No, it's annoying. I mean, even like I ruined Dead Space 3 for myself because there was all these I platinumed the first one and the second one, and I was on my way to platinum the third one, and they had some of the stupidest like little hidden pockets of things in the dumbest areas. So I sat through the whole game chapter by chapter with like a YouTube video next to me that was showing me the location. And I was like, why am I doing this? Like, this sucks. Like, it's not integrated into the game well, because it's so they're not really well hidden. They're just obnoxious. And so like when it came to like God of War 2018, remember all the stupid ravens you try and throw your axe at? I just blew it off. I was like, there's no reward that's going to justify me going around and doing this. So I don't care. Like, I'm just going to ignore them. They're fun if I see them in my path, but I'm not going to go dig through every little nook and cranny and level to get some minuscule completion thing, because it's not giving anything to the core gameplay. So you can make players do it, right, if they just want to complete it. But I think it's always better to reward them richly if they ever have to go off the beaten path.
Like even if just on those Intel laptops that they had some sort of background information, like on one of the enemies, or you got to learn more story on something, like that, at least again, that rewarding feeling, like, why am I doing this? For the players that are interested in this kind of background behind the scenes storytelling stuff, then they can go grab those laptops and pick them up. But yeah, that kind of comes back to like this idea of everything that you are trying to convey to the player ultimately should have a payoff. And I think that's kind of like my go-to now every single time, that what's the payoff, right?
Yeah.
So if there's no payoff, is it really just something they're doing because now games are expected to have these kind of Easter egg things that you're searching for?
Right.
And oh man, every game I play now, I'm going to be asking questions, thinking what's the payoff, and then probably getting frustrated sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, there's no freaking payoff.
Yeah, exactly. So that the next time you're making something, right, you're like, we have to get a real reason for this thing. If this is in a game that I'm in charge of in any way, like, I am objectively requiring that we put some substance behind it.
Yeah. Like, why do I cook dinner every night? what's the payoff? I'm
Yeah.
full. I'm eating good. Otherwise, you don't just cook the food and throw it in the trash. Like then it's pointless.
Exactly. It's
There's no-
mindless. Yeah.
But we have.
If you're making it for somebody else, you
Yeah.
at least getting to see them enjoy it. Like you get something out of it, right?
Something.
No,
Like,
that's a good payoff too.
Yeah.
I got another one for you from Jay. Do you have any advice for working on a more stationary level, like a top-down tower defense type game?
That's interesting. For something like tower defense, it's funny enough. I have a lot of side projects like this that I love. I grew up playing Warcraft 3, like the custom games, where I'm almost convinced tower defense was like born. And if
StarCraft,
right,
definitely.
Some of those
like the old school like community made maps
so good.
were dedicated to that. That's how League of Legends and that style of game was born, right?
Dota,
So,
original Dota. Line Tower Wars is always worth studying. You could just YouTube that. Line Tower Wars, literally LINE Tower Wars, and you will see one of the coolest games ever made. You have to think though, when it comes to level design like that, oftentimes it's just either a grid, right? There's a game called Kingdom Rush is one of the best tower defense games I know of. I don't like Bloons TD because it always looks like nonsense whenever I see gameplay of it. But somebody had to design those, right? Like you're designing the flow of characters coming through a sequence. And again, right, it's game design coming before level design. The level design layout you make for a tower defense game means nothing if you don't know how much health the enemies have. Are they following a specific path? Are they funneling in depending on where you place your towers? That's why Line Tower Wars is cool, because you are building the level maze that those creatures are running through versus other more traditional level design tower defense games where you're handed a maze. You have to populate the turrets on the edges of that maze. And the strategy then is, what turrets do I place at what point in the path to affect the enemies going through it, which is really fun. But Line Tower Wars is fun because there's just a straight funnel. There's a straight, narrow path, and you have to design where am I going to place towers to slow down the flow of enemies the most, right? So like the level design there is very simple. It's just a straight path. You're handing the player the responsibility of building the level, essentially. So sky's the limit. You can do anything. Depends on the kind of game you want to make, right? Are they defending something? Are you attacking something? I think there's a game called Guns Up that was really fun on the PS4. It was kind of like an idle game. You would basically build a base and you could assemble an army over time, and you could test your own base to see how these automatic wave of marching enemies are going to approach it. There's bazooka guys, there's minigun guys, there's riflemen. Some of those characters can only shoot my defenses at certain distances. How do I force the environment objects I place to make those units have to get within my firing range from the turrets so that they don't even get a chance to attack my stuff, right? There's 1,000 different ways you can do any one of these things. That's why playing a lot of broad, different varieties of games is so important, because you're building up a library of possibilities in your mind to draw from. So it really depends on what kind of tower defense game you want to make.
Solid. That's really, really solid. Okay, I think we do maybe one or two more, Jacob. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
On time?
I think that sounds good. Like generally, we try to keep it under an hour and a half just to be respectful of your time, of course. So otherwise, we could sit here and talk all day.
Time. About 2 minutes to put my feet up. We could be here all day.
I don't doubt it for a second. Here you talk about it. Yeah, no, hear you talk about it. It's great, incredible.
For those that want to stick around, Jack's going to start live streaming gaming.
He's going to stream it. Go straight from here over to Twitch.
Play some ball pit. You can just watch me, all that.
That would be cool, actually, honestly. Like seeing you play a game and then kind of go through it would also be kind of cool. I feel like just because I get to see as you're describing the levels, and from my memory, just because I played all these games when I was a kid as well. And so I just remember them and I'm just like, oh, nailed it. Like exactly correct. And so I see you put it in the work, basically is what I'm trying to say. Okay. We got next one. I don't want to skip somebody. Lath. I hope I'm close to pronouncing that correct. Any tips on how to blend open world with linear areas, levels to create unique experiences like Half-Life 2?
That's a good question. Yeah, there are. I wouldn't say that there's necessarily any open world sections of Half-Life 2, because every section, especially when you're on the boat or the vehicle, like the car, they are always still A to B. right? Sometimes you have to get out and operate a crane to lift the vehicle, to put it on a different platform or something like that. It's not necessarily open world. And the gameplay is linear too, right? There's, again, like similar to Last of Us and Half-Life 2, the most you're doing is finding ammo. That's the only reason you would really scavenge for anything.
So I guess, are they doing something that makes it feel open world while still staying linear? And perhaps that could kind of be related to what their question is, like, how do you blend open world with linear areas?
Yeah, I mean, I think for players to feel like something is linear, you limit the results and the goals, right? So like there is one way out of this place and it's over there, right? That's where I have to go. Elden Ring is ridiculously open world, right? Because like we saw from that picture, there's 1,000 directions. You could literally you could turn around, go behind where the player is standing and find other gameplay. There's a whole island that's south of the whole starting area. And then some players might not even get over there to find that. To do something like that, I think I know there's examples of games that I'm just not thinking of. Oh, BioShock has somewhat great examples like that. Most of those areas, especially when you're in Hephaestus towards the later half of the game, you're trying to build the bomb to get into Andrew Ryan's office. There is they call it like a multi-stage objective or something. Or when you're building the Rosa Galaga, to like remove the toxin that Ryan put in the air in the Arcadia level. So there's several side zones you have to go to. So the goal is still, we have to get to Ryan in Hephaestus. We're only in Arcadia, but this level I'm in is very spread out. There's a lot of subsections, right? There's the marketplace I can go to. I have to hunt down all these different ingredients, and they're spread out. Some of those ingredients I can only get from those sub areas. So even though the A to B is very linear, right? There's a lot horizontally. So you could think of it like that, right? You could think of it horizontally. If you're looking top down on a map, make your goal, I walked in through this door. The door I have to walk out of is up here. Everything I need to do to unlock that door is left and right of me. That's a simple way to approach it to begin with. Essentially. And I think Half-Life does do that to some extent, some ways, even just like operating the crane, right? Like the crane is on my left. The goal is in front of me. I got to get out of the car. I got to go kill all these guys, fight these zombies, get in the crane. Now I've achieved what I needed to keep going forward. That's one way I would sort of think about it. There's plenty of great examples that do that.
Yeah, I guess if you're going A to B then and want it to kind of feel open world while still being linear, then I guess you can just give them more space to explore, but there's less payoff while doing that. Whereas then if they continue to go down like the main path and unlock the next aspect of the story and things like that, then again, that same sort of payoff once you get there, it's making you travel along this kind of linear path to get those payoff moments, but you could still feel that it's like you said, horizontal and open world with maybe just some small exploration aspects to it, I guess.
As you were saying that, I actually was just thinking of the best example of that ever, which is Metroid. All Metroid games or Metroidvanias, if they're done well, especially like Metroid Prime is probably one of the best examples I could think of off the top of my head, is you have a distant goal and there are obstacles to that goal that you can't get to, or even areas you can't explore yet because you don't have the tools to open those pathways. So what do? You explore where you can, right? So it's basically guiding the player. You can't go that way yet, but you can go this way, right? And making that available to them. You can't jump up there yet, but you can sneak in under here. So all those different branching ways, Metroid is probably the best example of what I would offer to you, because the
Ori does that pretty well as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's it. That's a good way of. As soon as you said it, it was like instantly popped in my head.
That's a better
Ori
example.
Is it? You think it's better than Metroid? Metroid's outstanding.
No, I think Metroid. I meant the like Metroidvania type of games are a better answer than like BioShock or something. Yeah,
that's good.
They make that feel really good.
Okay, one more. I think. Yep, one more. Myra, how would you approach designing a smaller map for a game with a repetitive loop without the environment becoming boring too quickly? Particularly, I'm thinking about arena-style games.
Yeah, it's great. Again, it depends on what the player can or can't do. So even in those like tower defense games that I was talking about earlier, if you had nothing but a straight column, I'm trying to like line up with the camera, a straight like pathway that is sort of like a blank canvas, even if you introduce the player to that same blank narrow pathway as like, this is the baseline experience for the game, any obstacle you put in that becomes negative space that they can't interact with. Or it could become a tool. Maybe you design a teleporter, right? So there is a giant negative space in the middle of my play space. I put a teleporter here and it spits me out over here. I can jump across the play space now very quickly. Maybe there's a bridge over troubled water, right? Like there's a lava pit. It's a hazard I could fall into, but there's geometry to make me go around it. Especially if it's an arena kind of combat game, maybe you can Spartan kick enemies, you can shove them or something. Now I have a hazard to play off of in an otherwise tight space. So it's great to teach the player what an arena looks like butt naked, right? There's nothing in there. It's empty. It's just play space. The second you add anything, literally anything into the space, it changes the gameplay. Even if it was a bunch of physics object boxes that are stacked up in the middle of the room, those become micro cover to sort of bob and weave and smack around and hide, even if they're just blocking line of sight. Just blocking line of sight alone changes so much of a game, especially in a competitive setting like that. Regardless if it's ranged combat with guns or melee, look at Chivalry 2. Chivalry or Chivalry 2s are great games like that. Like there's an arena map, and there's a hazard in the middle, and you can knock players into it, right? Or you can fight along the edge of it, so you can try and smack each other into it. There's all kinds of things. You could get up top, and you can do a down slam on top of enemies. It depends on what the player can do, but literally, I promise you put down a giant cube in the middle of your arena, you're going to feel the difference, right? Put cubes in the corners. Now you're pushing players closer together. Anything you do with that geometry will make a cause and effect that will affect the gameplay. The fun part is if it's something like Angry Birds, right, where like imagine there's different stages or sort of escalating levels. Like, okay, I finished stage 1. What's stage 2 look like? Oh, there's just a big hole in the middle. Stage 2, well, now there's blocks next to the hole, so there's only a very narrow pathway for me to sort of like shimmy alongside the edge of the hole if I want to get to the other side of the map. Okay, stage 3, there's now a ring of fire and a jump pad, right? If I don't land that jump pad just right, I'm going to hit the ring of fire, fall into the pit, and die. But I have a quick way to get across where now I don't have to do this stupid shimmy thing. You can scale and build upon elements ridiculously easily, very quickly. And you're presenting it to the player as a playground. I mean, literally think of a playground, right? There's monkey bars, there's swing sets. What if I run on this thing, swing and jump off of it? Can I get up to that high point? What's up there for me? Would I get up there anyway, right? Maybe there's a bow and arrow. Now I can, just tag guys below that are just running around with swords and shields. There's 1,000 things you can do. But literally just adding damn near anything into an enclosed arena like that will make huge differences.
That's very, very cool. Hope that answers your question. Appreciate it. What else, guys?
Oh yeah, I guess that's less of a question. I just see a few other people chatting and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about just adding like a simple cube into there and such, it just reminds me how interesting it is too when you're inside of environments that are like dynamically changing around you, and how much that instantly starts to change the gameplay. That you could even have the same. I mean, I guess they did this even back in the Gladiator days, right? Like first they just put a guy out there and you're like, okay, I got to fight this guy. Yeah. All of a sudden fucking tigers are coming up out of the ground. It's like, okay, things are a little different now. This is a new game we're playing.
Yes. Yeah. It's so true. Yeah. I mean, just put a mud pit in there, right? Like everyone's slow and slipping around and stuff. Like anything will change it radically. It's crazy.
That's what's so fun about game design is like, what are you trying to convey with the emotion? What makes it interesting to you? What's like the payoff? And just changing these tiny little things like the gravity or, the slipperiness of the environment instantly changes the whole way that the game is played.
Yeah.
And I guess that's also why, level design and game design and all of these things, when they come together, they can start to unravel quickly and make what was a good game bad quickly, or the exact opposite. Just the smallest tweak across the game can instantly then, elevate the entire experience and make you feel like, wow, this is really exciting and really fun just from like these small little changes that are getting implemented. So yeah, I guess it shows like the small like tightrope you're kind of walking when you're dealing with this kinds of stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so it's really great to hear so many different examples in the perspective of somebody that's walked that tightrope so many times.
Yeah.
Like yourself.
It's fun just to put yourself in those shoes too. Something else I was thinking about as well is even just when it comes to AI, which I know can be like a touchy thing in a lot of these ways. I think game design and level design and your imagination, when it comes to these, like the art of game design, the art of painting emotions for players and stuff and making compositions and things, I think it's one of the last things AI would ever be able to figure out. is a sense of like it can replicate and duplicate visually, audibly, all kinds of things. But to understand fundamentally rich, exciting game design, right? The chunky feeling of like Kratos' axe in the 2018 God of War, like, yeah, that's hard for a computer to fake. Like, we know what that should feel like emotionally. It won't ever be very good at that kind of thing. Or like setting us, a very emotional sense of scale. It knows how to maybe build a vista, right? Like, yes, put a big object in the distance, but why and how and purpose behind that, that's such a human thing that I think having a stronger design understanding and being able to articulate that regardless of what kind of environment you're making, like, why did you choose this broken down 50s diner, right, that has crazy alien stuff growing on it, right? Like, what are you trying to sell the player emotionally for this space rather than just selling your skill with textures and materials and lighting, right? It's like knowing how to position the art that you're making in a way that will inspire a customer to want to buy, hey, whatever the hell next that studio is making, I'm in, because they sold me a hell of a ride the last game that I played that they made. And it's all hands on deck. You know when a great game is firing on all cylinders. That's the most fun part. Design kicked ass, audio kicked ass, the environment's awesome. All across the board, engineering feels great. There's no hitches. The performance is excellent. When all pistons are firing, dude, there's nothing better than a great game. And players know the difference. So the more you can leverage your expertise to participate in what the rest of the game is trying to do, the better. And I think design is the best way to understand that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it's going to be a long time before anything's going to be able to achieve that fine line tightrope walk and hit all those points to actually make like quality content.
Yeah.
So,
and I think in the future, especially as AI, I know it's such a topic, but as it continues to expand and being able to do more and more, like you said, if it's one of the last things they could do, might do some artists some justice or some good if they understand some fundamentals about it, because maybe that's going to be hard for AI to be able to create that fun of it and of an experience.
Exactly.
That deep of an experience, that emotional, you describe chunkiness.
Yeah.
I like describing sometimes sound effects. Like, you can just swap out some sound effects. All of a sudden you go from a disappointing sound effect like the SMG in Halo 2 where you got some popcorn being made versus like but or like within a game like GTFO, if anybody's ever played that game,
yeah,
they made some upgrades to the sound effects in that game, and when they had made changes like to a machine gun, it went from just beep 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 beep, beep to all of a sudden now it's just much more in depth, where you have a chunky sound and you could hear it reverberating on the walls since you're underground, and it gave much more of a feel. So once they made those upgrades to the sound effects, all of a sudden now it's that much more that you're there.
It's massive.
And you're in it. And so I think that from listening to you, it sounds like level design, game design, from an experience standpoint, that's what brings you in it.
Yeah.
And I don't know that AI is going to be able to do that very well very soon.
Yeah.
And
certainly not soon.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely for sure. That's powerful. That's good stuff, Jack.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us today, Jack. Like hearing your excitement and passion about this, and also just the way you've been able to convey these ideas to me. Like I said, you literally saw me get like truly excited in this moment of like discovery. I'm like, holy crap, I'm understanding game design.
The light bulb moment.
Yeah, you just broke it down for me. So super, like, really appreciate it. And yeah, thanks for sharing your passion with all of us too.
Oh man, it's my pleasure. I could talk about this stuff till I'm sick and dead. It's so fun. It's an endless. The beauty of it, as long as there's human imagination, we'll get new games. And we'll get new games to talk about and new games to play and share and discover. It always feels like travelers sitting at a tavern, like, you played this shit, man. This game. Let me tell you something about this game, dude. Like, so fun, so fun. It never ends. It never ends. It's so good. So yeah, thanks for having me on, you guys. This is a blast.
No, awesome, pleasure. Honestly. Anything, Jacob, from you as far as parting?
No, I'm still just here in a sense of wonder. I'm gonna let it culminate for a bit.
So let it sit in. Amen. That's awesome. Thank you all very, very much. Jack, you're awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. Some people that were interested in learning more from Jack actually is a mentor with us at Sierra Division Academy. He is available. So if you want to reach out, and if you're interested in taking a mentorship with him, even if you're just an environmental artist, you haven't dabbled in that, Jack's willing to work with people from the very beginning. I know that our mentorships that we have set up on the website right now are advertised as 8 weeks, but we can customize those. And so if you have a little project you wanted to consider maybe having Jack help you out with, or if you wanted to learn more about level and game design, hop in. We'd be happy to help you. Jack, it's been a pleasure talking to you, my friend. Everyone who's watching from home, we appreciate you watching live, and everybody's watching this later on YouTube. We appreciate you. Thank you so very, very much. Courses, we do have some courses still available here at Sierra Division Academy. You could sign up. Those are going to be going live here on February 2nd. So we'd love to see you in class. Mentorships, I think we only have now one mentorship left, if I'm not mistaken, or two that have some availability, Jack's, as well as an overall game development mentorship available. If anyone's interested in those, you're welcome to reach out to us. From our entire Sierra Division family, thank you all so very much. We appreciate you being here. And until next time, you have a good one.
Thank you.
Later, y'all.